Welcome, dogs. Get your goggles, get your tightest lycra tri-suit, put on those compression socks. Why be good at one sport if you can be shit at three? This is the Triathlon Mockery podcast. What's going on, dogs? We're back with the three of us, so Maxi, Jody, and Tommy. And in this episode, we're going to talk about the flippin' Olympics, baby. It was 2 days ago, so we're going to do a little recap about the Olympics. And then furthermore, about Joe's season, what has happened and what's next. And yeah, what's coming up for me and Maxi. But let's get started, boys. How's it going, Max? Been a while?
Yeah, it's been a while. It's good to be back with the dogs on deck. Now the Olympics is out of the way, I can be a dog again. So it's nice to be back.
How would you call your high or low in like a little summary? So how would you describe it? So you were originally, when we had you on the podcast for the last time, you were saying Olympics was 2 days ago. I had a little look at the list. What happened?
What, with me not being there?
Yeah, like give the listeners an update. Like they were expecting to watch you in Paris. They all went over there.
Everyone, we had literally buses full of dogs there, and the only dog that was out there was Alex Yee.
Yeah, I got screwed by the system, mate. The establishment held me down. So because I changed countries within like a 2-year period, there was a new rule that came in after Tokyo that said that if you changed within a certain amount of time, you couldn't represent the country at the next Olympics. But I missed out by 1 day. So the cutoff was 1 day. Yeah, the cutoff was on the 27th of May or the 26th of May, and I raced on the 27th. And I tried to like fight it and argue that like, well, I didn't earn any points. I didn't contribute to anything like 1 day, you know, like, and I wasn't even a citizen of the country that I was racing for before. So technically I wasn't even eligible to go for them, and tried everything I could. But, you know, the system didn't want me there, boys. So
when you got the call of them saying, because otherwise would you have had the points for the to be going to the Olympics?
The points were never going to work for a third spot, but I think I was in a good position to argue my case for that second spot. You know, it was if I would have been eligible, it would have been between like me, Sam, Johnny Brownlee, and maybe a couple other guys. I think, you know, I had a good argument given the results I've had this year.
Yeah.
But you know, just didn't happen, mate. Didn't go my way. So
did you?
We'll try again next time.
When you got the news, were you able to come over it? Like, did you understand it, or were you like sick in bed for like 2 weeks? Like, I don't know how you've taken the news.
To be honest, like I was a bit disappointed at like,
well, of course.
the like disappointed that I couldn't even like what was annoying for me is I couldn't even like fight to get in, you know. Like it's not like I wasn't good enough. It's like I like from the rules I just couldn't even get in. So that was a bit difficult and a bit annoying. And especially like it would have been good to have maybe a bit more support from my national body to kind of like push me to get in there, but that's the game. I mean, yeah, I tried to get over it as soon as I can and penciled in as many fun races as I could to kind of give me motivation. Because I think if I would have just sat on my ass and done nothing and probably like got a bit depressed, because you know the guys I saw racing yesterday, like I race them every weekend, and especially having gone like 9th in Hamburg, I was in the mix with a lot of guys that got top 10s and top 15s yesterday. So obviously that wasn't super easy to watch, but I know a lot of other guys missed out for other reasons.
Yeah.
And that's just the Olympics, you know. Like it's not necessarily the best 55 guys that line up.
No. But yeah, like you said, you got to crack on, baby. Got to get back on that horse. And now you're in Poland for 70.3 long course where the real shit happens.
Proper race, or halfway there.
Yeah, so I decided to just do this to kind of give me something to train for, you know. Like otherwise I just would have not sitting on my ass, but kind of like drifting aimlessly for 6 weeks. So I just thought, you know what, screw it, I'm going to get on the TT bars and I'm going to go and rip up some random 70.3 in Poland.
You know that 70.3 in Poland, Max, they didn't even name you as one of the favourites to watch out for.
Good.
Who are the
I like
favorites
flying.
then? Who are the favorites?
I don't know, like a load of people I hadn't even heard of, and I was like, this was after your top 10 in Hamburg, and I was like, well, I'd have thought he'd have got a list, a pit. Like I thought they would have at least mentioned him with the other 6 people. Like,
Well, and the podium after on the Brownlee train in Bahrain. So he
Yeah.
is a podium contender, you know.
yeah, I know. I thought it was great. I thought it was crazy, but oh well. Like at least you can that'll be a turn up for the books, wouldn't it? You know, you can ruffle a few feathers.
Who the hell is
Well, I
this
think
guy?
Yeah, where did he come from?
well, I made a mistake because I got my registration wrong, and I was like messaging the group chat frantically, like, "How do I register for an Ironman?" Because I only just bought my license, and I thought that like I'd done the license and I'd done like the 1 day thing, but then I forgot to request the link. And when the pro list came out, my mate sent me, he's like, "Mate, you're not registered. What are you on about? You're not doing this race." And I was like, "You what? I've been training for this race for a month." So I had to like panic email Ironman and be like, "Get me in, get me in, get me in."
And you managed to get in. I guess that's the perks, isn't it, of being having your missus race at the Olympics. You can pull a few strings like that, can't you? And more like me and Tom can't do that. We'd have just had to wait until the
Mate,
next.
I've got literally no flipping string to pull, and every string I pull is a dodgy old one that breaks halfway through. But anyway, what about you then, Jody? So you raced Lake Placid, didn't had the result. You obviously, you pulled out after the bike, and you were saying beforehand after Wales that if you didn't get a good result, that you wanted to stop with the sport. Now we're a
Yeah, well, I was
week
just
and a half
really,
further.
to be honest, I was just really, really disappointed. I haven't felt my normal self in racing, to be honest, since I'd say about a year and a half, really. The last good one I had, or where I felt really decent, was November 2022. I felt all right last year at Lake Placid, but it's been so inconsistent for the last 14, 16 months. So to be honest, I've just decided to take a bit of time out and recover. Like I
Mm-hmm.
keep seeming to get like a lot of illnesses, a lot more like colds and stuff, and I think I've just been depleted my body, my immune system's a bit down, so catching things, and yeah, just not feeling my normal self. So I've taken a bit of time off, and since Lake Placid, to be honest, I've only done one swim, and that was yesterday in the pool at home. So I don't even know whether you'd count that, like 20 minutes.
Yeah, well, we had a long chat last week, and we were speaking about because last year, after like halfway through the season, you started to have some bad results, and that actually kept on going till today. But also because you keep having like not a great race, you're constantly thinking, all right, this one didn't went great. I quickly need to do another race, so I hope I get a good results. And in the meanwhile, you've been racing 1.5 years nonstop, training nonstop, not giving yourself let up. You were saying your volume in training went up. And in the end, you've already raced this year like 4 Ironmans or something.
um,
3.
kind of free. Like I started Texas, but I didn't finish it, did I? So start line of free. But to be honest, it's not just the racing as well. There's a lot of things that were like out of my control. So like Texas, obviously, like I was ill this year, but that's still a massive blow. And then last year,
Mm-hmm.
I was in really good form before Florida, and after Nice, wanted to kind of finish the season on a high. But then I had that health scare. So then I had to like end the season and take some time off. So it was just loads of little things that just kept almost like, you just kept thinking, God, not something else, not something else. So I've kind of decided to start a new chapter, have a bit of time off, and I'll probably race at the end of this. Well, I might race at the end of this year if I feel like I'm in good form and I feel like I could do a good race. Then I will race. Yeah, if not, but to be honest, what I'm really thinking is I'm building up next year's like my main goal. To be honest, so I'm kind of just looking
Mm-hmm.
ahead to that and making sure that I give my body a chance to properly recover and build up for then.
Yeah, well, I do really think that it's super important to have that bit of time off where you like reset. I had exactly the same, maybe not on the same level, but I had a really bad year last year, and at the end I had Cozumel, and I was so done and so disappointed in myself, but also in a lot of the occasions where it's not really your fault, but still you want to have a good result because that's what you're training for. I took 2 months off, and I started new in January. And I don't know. I think it's just really you need it now at this time. You need a bit of time off. You need a bit of more like release the pressure a little bit, and also I think you took some things away from this what you've done this year, as in like more volume and more races isn't the answer, right?
Yeah, definitely. Like in training, I had like on the way back from Lake Placid, I had a big look at all my training that I'd been doing and stuff, and I think I've definitely been overdoing it compared to what I had done. Actually, I look back to when I had my best races and stuff, and it was actually surprising that I didn't do nowhere near as much as what I actually thought I did when I
Mm-hmm.
looked at it. So I think definitely, you people always think, don't they, more's more and stuff like that, but actually it's not. And I think you can get caught up in what you see everyone else doing nowadays. You see everyone posting it and stuff, and you kind of always looking for that little bit extra, aren't you? You're thinking, oh, I wonder if I did this, would I get it even faster? And it lead to more. And I think
Yeah.
before you know it, you end up going off the track and doing more than what you would, or veering away from what worked well for you. So I definitely need to go back to not doing quite so much, because that was just what worked really well, and I wasn't improving all the time. So yeah, I've definitely learned a lot. It's been a hard lesson, to be honest. And I mean, what do you
Yeah.
think, Max, about that? I mean, it's probably quite handy for you because you've got a coach and you're in a group, so you kind of just do as they say, don't you? I guess, and you don't really get caught up in what other people do.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be lying to say I don't look at what other people do. I think that's like human instinct to kind of open up Strava, see someone post a big session and think, wow, they're flying. But I think what I've learned, especially over the last 2 years, is I've got a plan. I've got like a vision of where I want to be. Obviously, I can be self-critical and think, okay, I need to adjust this or change this, or every time I have a race where something doesn't quite go the way I want, or not fully the way I want, I look back and I tweak. But what's really worked for me over the last 2 years is really just having that sense of direction every week, getting my training plan, thinking, okay, I'll just tick these off as best as I can, get good sleep, eat well, drink well, and just kind of just rinse and repeat. And I think when you start building that consistency over like 2 years, and you've just rinsed and repeat the same kind of program and routine, and just kind of also taking time to have a coffee in the day, or
Mm-hmm.
giving yourself like one thing to say, okay, well, after this block we'll take 3 days off and go here and really
Exactly.
reset. That's when you start building momentum, and then it starts small, like you have a good result, and then you put in another training block and you have another good result, and all of a sudden you get used to kind of knowing what you need to do well. And even if you don't do as well as you want to do, you still kind of way better than maybe where you would have been in the past. So maybe an off day turns into a top 8 instead of an off day turning into like 25th. And that's kind of what's happened to me. So for me, it's been all about just, yeah, it sounds really cliche, but like being really consistent and kind of, but also giving myself that time to decompress. So like when we're in Font-Romeu, Joe, like you're kind of living like a bit like a monk. There's not much up there. You're kind of just training, sleeping, eating. But then on a Monday, Kate and I would go down to the cafe in Puseda and say, okay, well, we're going to have a nice breakfast and 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 enjoy like a smashed avocado, even though it's
I
not
even
like
went
you're not saying,
a day to the spa when I went on training camp in Font-Romeu, and I said to Joe, "Mate, decompress. It's all about the decompression. It's like I'm a steam train, and a steam train needs to decompress to build up speed." But also,
What spa did you go
Joe
to?
knows. Joe knows how to tick the consistency. He knows how to build a great schedule and everything like that. But if I've been doing, like what I always do before a race is I analyze a bit of the races in the past, and the best few races I've had were also in a period where Joe had his best few races, and that was in an era. Let's talk years back. No, that was like, for example, let's
Galaxy
say.
far away.
No, but before, when we went to World Champs together, when we went to New Zealand, when we went to Switzerland, and if you look at those training sessions, you were doing up approximately around 24 hours a week, which is a lot, but it's nothing crazy. But now this year, especially before Lake Placid, you were ramping up the hours, something like 30 hours to 35 hours a week. And on top of that, you were also doing 3 Ironmans in like 3 months and like 2 half distances. So you've got more training, you've got more races. And I think an Ironman does so much stress to like your flipping cells. Like I always need more than 2 weeks to recover from it and to like some sort of training. Look at, for example, Braden Curry. He's a top athlete. He's struggling now with races. You see a lot of great athletes who are racing more and don't have the results they want to. I call myself the Jan Frodeno of AliExpress, because Jan Frodeno in the past only raced like what he raced like 4 times a year, didn't he? Something like that. But he always peaked towards one race, boom, maybe 1 or 2 Ironmans, Frankfurt and Kona.
The
And they,
AliExpress Frodeno.
yeah,
yeah,
AliExpress
You can buy it
Frodeno.
for 20 quid instead of 500. breaks after his first use.
I was at the Oakley House at the Olympics a couple of days ago with Greg Welsh and Jan was in there, and he reckoned that because he was saying, "Oh, do you reckon this swim's going to go ahead?" Whatever, and I was like, "Oh, don't know." Like the current's absolutely honking, mate, like down this river. And so he got in the morning before the race and did the actual swim, and he did it in 26 minutes and 5 seconds,
What?
yeah, according to Emma. And
What? So he just went in there at like 6 a.m. or something like that.
yeah. And they because they let a couple people in, and he did it in 26 minutes, and he was like, apparently got out and said, these girls are really going to struggle in there. And I think they must have done something during the race because the girls swam about, I don't know, 22 minutes or something. So it still took them a long time, but fuck, he got out of the water and he was like, these girls aren't going to get around. And then the current is absolutely honking, but you could kind of see that when they went around the buoys, just kind of getting drifted out.
I timed it like on one bit, I think on the long stretch, it was like 3 minutes, something like that, 3.5 minutes to get out. And then it was like 10 minutes to come back, or over 10 minutes to get like back to the pontoon. It was crazy.
Yeah.
You know, it's true what you say. Lake Placid was though such a big downer for me. Like, you know what? On after about 140 k's, 150 k's, I was so upset on the bike. Like I actually was like, and that was when I knew, you know, it's time to take a bit of a break after this race, because you shouldn't really feel like that. You do you know what I mean? Like, I mean, you know, when you have like so many bad ones, you know, it all kind of gets on top of you, don't it? And then afterwards, I was just I was just really upset, to be honest. Like I was like, you know, that's it. I'm probably done for this year.
Well, of course.
Yeah. I went through a similar thing last year where I just kept crashing. I kept crashing every race, and it just nothing seemed to be going right.
But that's normal. That's what triathletes do.
Yeah, as we saw yesterday. But I kept getting down, and I was just like, oh, it feels like a negative cycle, and how everything's just kind of crushing you, and because you pour
like, you just can't catch a break. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's always something like, and it could be different things, but it seems like there's always something that was going wrong, kind of thing. What did you do then when that happened to you?
I guess I was fortunate that like Kate kept kind of telling me like, look, you've done the training, just tick it all off and just get on the start line and do it all right. And even if it isn't like a podium or a top 5, like just get through a bloody race, you know? And I think once I started getting through the race, then I could focus on like getting a result.
The next one.
Yeah. And I think that really helped to ground me, just to kind of break it down and make it as simple as possible. Like, okay, you do this in training every day, because sometimes a race like hurts less than some training sessions. Like if you're having a really bad session and you get through it and you really hurt yourself, like sometimes when you're having a flyer in a race, you get to the finish and you go, wow, okay. So if you tell yourself this is just like training, but I need to go a bit deeper, then it makes it a lot easier for me mentally when I think about, okay, I'm just going into a race and I'm doing what I do every day, swim, bike and run. And then at the finish, I'll be absolutely cooked, but it's what I've trained for. And then if you just break it down into simple terms, I think for me anyway, I've found that the more relaxed and the more I break it down and the more I'm on the start line thinking I'm doing a training session, the better, you know?
Yeah.
I know that's what works for me, but yeah, I think that's how I kind of got out of it, was just breaking it down to simple terms and trying to enjoying it and just reminding myself that like, this is what I want to do, you know? Otherwise I wouldn't be doing it. I'd just go out on the piss or something.
Yeah, but I mean, sometimes when you're in it by yourself, of course you've got your friends and family, but then it's really hard to still believe, you know, because you've had all the setbacks, you're feeling all that what you're missing at some point is to believe in yourself. Like I keep constantly failing, and even though maybe you've got the support of your friends and family, one thing you do still rely upon is, for example, sponsorships, you know. And if the sponsors pull the plug, then it's really hard to keep going. What are you still going for? But yeah, dogs, we've got a little surprise, because you know what happens if men don't feel like themselves. Then normally an average dude will go to Bali to find themselves. But Jody and Tommy are going on a little camp. Right, Joe?
To Bali.
Yeah, I'm going to Austria. with Tom and actually staying in his caravan, so I'll be able to get a real insight into what caravan life's like. I've actually slated you, haven't I, a few times for that, like going in the caravan. Not slated you, but like made fun of you a bit, haven't I? So now I'm going to actually experience it for myself.
Exactly.
But that's like the in-between, isn't it? It's like Jay and is always banging on about his dad's caravan. Have you watched the in-between show?
I love the in-betweeners, yeah. I think
And
there's
they get to the caravan and his dad's like shitting in the cabinet, opening the packet of crisps, and he's like, "What does he say? It's a sense of freedom you don't get with other holidays." Is that you, Tom?
Yeah, I reckon so. But
what's my bed like, Tom? Because your bed's like mega. I've seen it. It's like at the end, isn't it? It's really like set up for like a proper, like nice, like king size bed or a double bed. And then
yeah, but there's a king size at the other one too. Like you can turn the living room also into like a bed.
What, and then you just get rid of it in the day. You just kind of fold it up and get rid of it in the day.
But do you know what the good thing is? So it's a little. You can see it like a band camp. Is that what they call it? Like band camp? This one time at band camp?
Yeah.
But so
That's American Pie, isn't it?
Exactly. So we're just doing hard training throughout the day. And then, so we got the campsite. It's like at a big lake. The lake, near the lake is like a 50-meter pool. There's a 25-meter pool. It's awesome riding, running, and then in the evening we can just like open up the barbecue. You can say hi to all the other people in the camping. You know, it's the decompression in combination with working out a little bit, getting Jody back into that routine before he ends up putting himself into like monk life again to get the top results. But first, the decompression week with the lifestyle athlete.
If I end up,
Joe's just going to caravan club.
Yeah, and
caravan club.
If I end up racing Chattanooga at the end of the year, I don't even need to worry about swimming, do I? A packet of Doritos gets round in an hour, mate, on that swim. So even if I just lay like I've done an hour swim, like
yeah. No, but I am really, really looking forward to that trip now. But we still need to work out the days. But that will be literally in 2 weeks. Anyway, so we head over to the Olympics.
Yep.
What was the atmosphere like, Max, there?
Oh, mate, honestly, like...
Was it the best you've ever seen?
This is what I find really sad about triathlon is the comments on, like, if you look at the comments on a lot of the mainstream kind of media, like L'Equipe in France or like BBC Sport, all the top comments are like, triathlon is such a good sport to watch, loved watching this, da-da-da. And when you were in the crowd, mate, it was like 10 deep. When Casson ran past and she was like winning, my ears were like ringing.
Really?
Like it was insane. They had speakers out. They were doing chants. They were doing like, the Icelandic clap every time she was coming around.
What's the Icelandic clap?
You know, in the football when they go like that. Woo, woo. Like
that. Really? Is that what they were doing?
Yeah, it was crazy. It was absolutely stacked. The whole course was filled with people. Like
it's got to be the best atmosphere in the Olympics so far for an event. Like the swimming, yeah, they get a stadium, but they're quite far away. Whereas this is like so intense, isn't it? Like the fans are literally like 2 meters away from the athletes. And like you said, it was round the whole course on the run. It was like, I mean, I only saw it on the TV, but it sounded good. Like I can imagine.
And you had people with air horns like every time they came around. It felt like on the Alpe d'Huez.
Yeah, well, them air horns, didn't they set the women off like too early because someone?
Yeah, I think too many people had air horns. Yeah. To be honest.
Yeah, but you at first I thought it was like a false start, but then when you really listen, there's like 2 horns, isn't it? You've got like that, and you've got the horn.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't understand what happened there.
You would think it was the proper start, like anyone would have. Like, I'm surprised the other girls didn't go when they saw everyone else jumping off. Because as soon as you see everyone else going, you're just going to go on.
Oh, you just go.
Nerves as well, isn't it? Like nerves, focus, and I don't know. I haven't been there.
So you would say it was absolutely awesome, would you? And everyone and all the mainstream media said it was like a brilliant sport and stuff like that.
And I think that's what's such a shame is like if you kind of had an organization that promoted it better, then you could have races like that I mean, maybe not to the same extent, but like similar crowds and similar atmosphere every weekend,
I think the Olympic triathlon should be a Super League triathlon. You know that one where they do the eliminator, the free
that would be mad.
The free sports, and then the final one you set them off like that, and that would be incredible. Like that.
But yeah, no, I mean, Casson winning at home was unbelievable. Like she delivered all the pressure on her shoulders the days leading up. Like I was in France, obviously watching the TV, being like they were like, they'd wake up in the morning and be like, today's medal hopes, Bogran. Da, da, da,
Yeah.
da, da. Yeah. They were like, today we're going to get a gold in the triathlon. And, like, I feel like the triathlon's a bit different to like a 100-meter sprint or like a
It's
track race
unpredictable,
where
isn't it? A bit like
it's so
so much can go
unpredictable.
wrong.
And she could have crashed. She could have like dropped a chain. She could have had a bad swim. Like so many things could have gone wrong. And to be fair, that was as close as it got to a flawless performance. She was in there on the swim, perfect positioning on the bike, and then on the run, just like a masterclass.
One thing
It was
that
unbelievable.
I wanted to ask you about was like, what was Kate's like mental state before the race when the men's got cancelled, before she went to bed, not knowing whether or not the race was going to be on, and she wouldn't know until she woke up in the morning. Like, what was she saying to you before? Because you must have spoke to her before she went to bed and everything. Because that would really
Did you
like.
did you you didn't sleep in the same room, right? Because she was in a cardboard box house.
No. She was in a VIP hotel in she wasn't in the village.
What?
Oh,
She
so
was
you
in
were
a VIP hotel. Very
So you were
important.
with.
She was a very important British person.
But why
you
wasn't she
saying
in?
that?
Why wasn't she, for
Because
example?
they just deemed that it was too far and too complicated to get from the village to the race site.
Okay.
So yeah, she was there, and I mean, to be honest, I guess I tried over that 2 weeks before the race and the day before the race to just keep it as normal as I could, like make the normal stupid jokes and like normal. Not try if you act the most as normal as you can, then I guess my thinking was, well, she'll think it's just another race, even though everyone knows full well it's not just another race. Like it was the biggest stage in sport, right? But she was good. I mean, mentally, I said, I tried to give the message that like, no matter what happens, you're ready for it. If it's a duathlon, if it's moved, if it's whatever, and then always got to, I think, remember that everyone's in the same boat. Everyone is in that uncertainty, and I think half the battle is just holding your head. So if you can hold your head and be on the start line with as much mental energy as you can, not having wasted it thinking what if, then you're in a better position than half the people there, I think.
So she was fine going into it because you just basically.
Yeah, she was good, man. She was really good. She was really confident. She'd had a great training block. She had a really good lead up. Very few, no injuries. So she was in great physical condition. And I think she showed it yesterday, despite, what happened to her like in the first buoy. She was fourth to the first buoy and hit the inside of the can, and she said she just felt a hand on her shoulder and she got dunked kind of quite deep under the water
all the time, being in the fucking melee.
Yeah, and so she was just kind of under, and then every time she'd pop her head back up, someone else would push her back down. So yeah, it was. I knew something had happened straight away because you don't go into a buoy fourth and come out last. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So I knew. I spoke to her after the race, and she was obviously quite upset, saying that like she didn't understand. She was about to call the kayak over to pull her out because she was freaking out that much. She thought she was going to drown.
Bloody hell.
So she did bloody well to get back in there, and then obviously like the mindset to just be like, well, fuck this, I'm going to get myself back in the race no matter what. And you'd argue she got herself back in top 10 contention, because some of the girls that were in her group got a top 10 and she still got 15th, which for your first Olympics at 25, I mean, isn't bad.
That's a great result.
Good as well. I mean, she rode like an absolute animal, like trading turn for turn with Taylor Knibb, who's literally one of the best cyclists in the world, and then ran with that group for 7K. So for me, she's got no regrets and did everything she could on the day. But yeah, I mean, that's triathlon, right? Like you said, so many uncontrollable things. Like you get dunked and all of a sudden you're fucking last.
Max, you said Jan Frodeno did the practice swim or whatever, or like swam the course in the morning in 26 minutes. Would you have done it with him if he'd have said to you, like, hey, Max, do you fancy doing it like 6 a.m.? Would you have done it?
Yeah, for sure. Of course, I would have got it.
So you just didn't. Like, it's a shame we didn't invite.
I didn't get the invite, mate. I'm not VVIP enough yet.
Yeah.
Maybe next time, but I'll do it. I'll do it for myself when I'm on the start line in LA, mate. I'll recce it.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
All right.
But yeah, I mean, what's that?
Yeah, so we quickly debrief the women's race first then.
Yeah.
So basically, the swim, as we could see, I don't remember. I think they clocked something like, what was it? Like, what were you saying? 22 minutes, 23 minutes. That is like time-wise for a 1500, what they would normally swim.
That's not even 57 minutes, Tom, for an Ironman. So you could have been in the mix. fair.
That's what I thought. I
They
could have
averaged
been right on their feet, but
130 per 100 was the pace.
yeah, but
130.
it's Max, you got a better insights in this, so can you debrief the
I've got
swimming a bit? Yeah, he was there, wasn't
Yeah,
he?
so, yeah, basically, I
And
mean,
he's a
so it
swimmer. He
was
knows what he's doing.
yeah.
so Flora Duffy, I mean, absolute legend, kind of just obviously had some sort of amazing prep for the river. She knew exactly where to go. If you watch the replay back, she's kind of dodging the currents, hopping in
Yeah.
and out, and just absolutely put on a clinic of river swimming, man.
But
It
the men learnt
was,
so much, which was a shame, because it would have blown.
yeah,
If the men's race was first, it would have blown it apart big time. But they all knew they had to swim next to the boats, didn't they? Which was a shame, because
yeah.
then it made it closer.
Yeah, it definitely felt like the women's race was a bit of like a tester for the men's. Like, I felt bad for the women being thrown in there first, especially with the strength of the current. You send in the lightest people, just like, all right, get out there. Roads are wet as well, so good, best of luck on the cobbles. But yeah, Flora put on a clinic, and then it was just a breakaway. I thought she was going to go solo there for a couple of laps,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, same here.
I think she thought. I think she thought it as well. But you could tell that by the way she was kind of looking back, she was thinking, like 40K is a long way.
Yeah.
But bloody hell, I thought for 1 minute there she was just going to go for it. That would have been so iconic. But still,
I think the problem was the group was like fairly close to her, but then when they all like kind of like compacted again, it was like they weren't really some more girls came up, didn't they? Because wasn't there a small group of like 5 or 6 at the start, and then which would have been ideal. That would have been perfect for them because to work together. But it seems like in triathlon, people are always really reluctant to actually work in the breakaway. It's like, but then what always amazes me is when the group gets big. So when it got to like 17 people, like some of them girls, I feel like should have actually tried to attack and get a breakaway. Like they had Cassandra, you had Beth Potter in there, 2 of the favourites for the gold and silver. Why would you not try and attack that breakaway and get in a smaller group? Because what's that?
What I'm wondering, and Max, you've got better insights in this. So the bike portion in at like short course racing is like a crit race, isn't it? So you've got crit race dynamics. And I am always missing the crit race dynamics. So for example, if you're in a chase group, so you're 1 minute, 1 minute, 2 minutes, whatever, you're down. And obviously you want to get to the front. So what you would see during a crit race is that everyone would work together. You would do like 15 seconds, 10 seconds on the front, but like really flipping hard. So you would go like 46 k's an hour, whatever. So you would catch the group in front, but you would go through and off constantly through and off. And what I always see in short course triathlon is that they're doing, for example, a minute, 2 minutes on the front, and it's all very controlled. And then it's really hard to come back quick, And I think during a race, you want to come back as quick as you can. But I'm missing is the bike portion just like training at short course, or do you also do crit race clinics? Because I think that could be very beneficial to a lot of the athletes that I've seen cornering, and also the dynamics in general on the bike.
Totally.
No, I agree. I think in general in short course, there's not enough kind of race intelligence on the bike. Like if you showed our racing to kind of like, I don't know, the Ineos performance manager or the Visma performance manager or whoever, they'd be like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
Like you're doing the opposite of what you should do. I mean, it's like they say in cycling, you don't get on the front unless you're chasing or trying to break away.
Mm-hmm.
But then in triathlon, it just seems like sometimes you'll be trying to do something, and then you'll have someone that pulls a turn and does the most ridiculous move. And I think that because you have that kind of like that gap between people perhaps that have really good tactics like Flora, who's like a master tactician,
Mm-hmm.
and someone like Nib who has less tactics, then it just kind of makes everyone in between be like, oh, well, I can't be asked, I'll just go with the flow, because
exactly.
They think, you know what I mean? It kind of, if 1 or 2 people are doing stupid shit, then the kind of whole race just falls apart.
Like when I used to do racing and I was working my way up the category system, it seems like they race like 3-4 category riders where they don't know what they're doing. People just sit on the front riding like at a constant hard pace, but not actually for no reason. Like especially like, I mean, I saw it more in the men's, to be honest. When the men got like that really big group and nearly everyone was there was like people, they were doing through and off. And like Christian was riding on the front. And I'm thinking,
exactly.
what the fuck are you doing? Like, why are you towing 40 people along? It doesn't matter if you complete the bike leg 30 seconds quicker, mate. It makes no fucking difference. You're there to beat the others. So why are you sat on the front towing them round? I just thought, like, that was the most tactically inept things. And then, like, there's guys that can't even run. Hayden and Yi are sat in there thinking, rubbing their hands, probably thinking, yep, guys, tow us round if you want, because we're going to outrun you. It's like, why are they not attacking them? Why are they not, like, sprint, like, trying to get... Like,
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. I mean, it's just, for me, it's like, it's difficult because when I'm in the race, like, my game plan is always swim in the top 5 and then just absolutely hammer the first 4K and hope for the best, And then but then the thing is, once it regroups, I just sit in because I'm like, well, what's the point of me working on the front if I've got freaking Alex that's going to drop a 13:50 5K or a 28 10K? Like, I'm going to get fucked anyway, so I might as well work. I might as well hold back.
That's just where it. So if you're in a chase pack, and now I get people always say, Alistair Brownlee in the past was really aggressive on the bike and shouts to everyone. Yes, I can see why, because he's trying to like friendly communicate with other people to flip and work and get the hell out of there before the other one catches him.
Like,
and that's what
I felt sorry for Martin Van Riel and Matt Hauser, who were trying to get that breakaway to work when they had like the small breakaway, and then there was guys sat on the back, and even the commentators like on BBC were like, why are these guys not riding? They're not going to get a top 10 if the group comes back together. This is their best opportunity. Then they were like, I can see why there's some work, why Alex is having some words, because I think Alex Yee must have gone back and like said to him, look guys, come on, like, this is your best chance or whatever. And they were just sat on the back, and obviously no wonder why it ended up like coming back. But yeah, I mean, you can see why Alistair was shouting at him, couldn't you? Because if you were in a breakaway and people were sat on, you'd be infuriated, wouldn't you? You'd be like, what are you doing?
Yeah, but back in the day, like before 2016, like that was kind of the MO of short course, was swim at the front. Alistair, Johnny and Gomez are going to absolutely hammer the bike. So you have to like contribute, or you're going to get yelled at or put in the barrier. And then that was it. And then the chase pack was like, well, we need to chase. And Moeller and Murray would chase. But now it just seems like you've got these guys like Christian that don't think tactically. They just sit on the front at 420.
I can't imagine with them analyzing poo and everything that they don't think tactics. So I'm curious what the tactic was behind
do you know,
riding. I honestly don't think they have a tactic.
Do you know why I think? Do you know what I think that why he does it is because in the past he's been like the best runner as well, or one of the best runners, and because he's been strong across all three, he hasn't had to be as smart tactically. Whereas now he's actually needs to be more smart tactically. Like, he's not going to beat those guys in a running race, and you can see he was finishing like 8th or 9th place. So actually now he needs to be a lot more smart. He needs to actually think, well, I need to get in a break. And he's just not used to actually having to race with his head. He's just been able to get through on brute force.
Or what could have been possibly it is that Christian knew that he wasn't as quick at the moment as Alex Yee or Hayden Wild. So he knew he had to get a little bit of an advantage on the bike. So he had hoped that someone would break away, and then he was riding on the front so he could like go with them, then you're there and not you're somewhere down.
He was just riding at a steady, hard pace. It was never going to work. He was just towing them round. It was just a stupid move.
It's so frustrating to kind of watch and be a part of as well. Because, I mean, in Chengdu when I won the World Cup, like, it was really good because we had a good swim, and then all of a sudden I got on the bike and I said, "Look, guys, like, let's go," and we all get a podium. Because that's the thing is, if you commit to it, then you maybe get a result that like you weren't expecting at the start of the race. Because if you come off the bike with 5 or 8 guys, your odds of winning or getting a podium are so much higher than coming off with 40 guys.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
But I just think people struggle to accept that notion sometimes when they think, oh, well, this guy runs fast and this and this and this, so I'll just pull back. So it's kind of like where Alistair and Johnny were good was they were like, well, I don't want to run with Moeller, and they would say to other guys on the bike, like, what are you doing? Like, do you want to just roll around, or do you want to actually fight for a podium here? And, you see a lot of them guys like Aaron Royal that got a bunch of like 3 or 4 podiums off just following Alistair's tactic. And I think in the modern day, if he came off with 40 people, he'd get like 27. But because he was in that era where Alistair was like, let's go, and they'd commit to it, and it made sense because then everyone...
They sound like the good old days.
Yeah, I need to go back to them days.
But the other way, the other way around works for the women for the female athletes, because you had like the front pack, and they got away with the 8 of them, and everyone ended up in the top 10. Whereas the chase pack, that was where Kate was in. Kate is normally more up the front, but because of the dynamics in like the chase pack, I think a lot of the chances were missed there for some of the athletes. And if I were like a standard, so if I were always a chase group swimmer, you always have up and around the same people on the start list, right? At the WTS races. I would at some point like contact other chase pack swimmers and say like, "Hey guys, we're always in the chase pack. We should do like a crit race course with like the 6 of us or 7 of us, and just learn how to flipping through, and get to the front in like a minute or two. Because you can make up with 8 people. You can make up a minute in like 10K easily if you're willing to dig deep and the dynamics are great."
Yeah, but it's just that thing of like you stick to that motto that I said earlier. Like you go to the front if you need to get yourself back in the race, you pull through. If you need to keep yourself away from the chase pack, you pull through. If you're not in one of those two scenarios, then you just sit in. But it just seems like sometimes people in the chase or in the break will sit in when it's in their advantage to pull through. And that's what I think a lot, like what you guys are saying right now, is you don't really understand why not. And I guess I don't understand either. Because if I'm in a break and I think to myself, right, we got 30 seconds here, I'm going to pull through till the gap is going to close, you know?
If the group was big, it would be really good if everyone sat in, because the pace would go right out of the group because no one would be working, and then you'd be able to get attacks go away because it would make it really volatile, because all of a sudden the pace would like slow down to like 30 k's an hour. So you'd be able to get away, but they actually they make the race negative by keeping the pace high in that group by just all doing turns when there's like 40 of them there. So no one can go off the front because they're riding along at like 45, 48 k's an hour. So you just can't attack because it's just too fast. So actually you want the pace to come out when you want to do some attacks, don't you? And then
would that be the equivalent of like Vingegaard going to the front on a flat stage of the Tour just to keep the pace high?
It's just, why would you do
like,
that?
Why would he do that? There's no point of him doing that. Or Pogacar, like if they could ride 20 k's an hour, they would, because there's no point. There's no point. Why would they go to the front and drive it when they're the main guys?
Yeah.
You know? So it just makes no sense.
Yeah, but it was anyway. It made exciting watching. I did find it very exciting, the men's and the women's race, especially the men's. When I saw that, I think wasn't Hayden Wild after the swim like a minute and a half, something like that.
Just over a minute.
Yeah,
over a minute, right? And they rode back super quick to like the main pack, and then you had like this big group of 40, and when they were starting to run, it was like what was it, like a big group chasing, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Going to the run, you know, when coming into the last lap, so Alex was like 14 seconds behind, wasn't he, with 2.5 k's to go. Do you think Hayden blew up and slowed down a bit, or Alex found a bit extra and Hayden didn't slow down? I personally think that Hayden blew up, and then when Alex realised that he was like really close to him, he put in a big surge to kind of put in the final dig. What do you guys think?
I mean, I think what we saw yesterday from Alex was like probably the most impressive kind of example of like keeping your head, you know, because I think Hayden had never beaten him over Olympic distance, and I guess still hasn't, and he had to try something. So he was saying to himself, right, I'm going to take him by surprise 3K into the run and just go for it, and maybe he'll lose hope, you know. Because if you've never been dropped by someone and all of a sudden you get dropped, you think to yourself, oh shit, this is the day, and like maybe you start panicking. But Alex held his head, kept running his tempo, and like you said, maybe Hayden started fading, and he sniffed blood, and he thought to himself, right, here we go. Yeah, and I think that's a really impressive race.
100%, because I would say that is the hardest part. That's what I said to you, Joe, yesterday as well. It is believe in your own abilities. So literally 3Ks into the run, Hayden passed Alex Yee with like a blistering pace. And Yee just was like, all right, mate, like this pace is too high for me. I believe in my own abilities. And I was like, at some point, I was like, damn, that Hayden is flipping gone, man. But to be able at the highest stage to think like, I'm going to believe in my own abilities and just, probably the gold medal is a goner. That is big, a big pull.
So, I guess Hayden probably thought then, I keep losing the sprint finish to Alex. So I've got to try something different. If I want to beat him, I can't take him to the line with 500 to go. So I guess he thought, if I hit it hard towards the start, get a gap, that is my best shot. That is a different tactic that I haven't tried, and it might work. And obviously it didn't, but he would have been no worse off than if he'd have waited for the sprint. And at least he actually tried, and he almost did very, it was so close to working, wasn't it? I mean, I thought Hayden had it in the bag, to be honest. Like, I
me
couldn't
too.
believe it. Like, that
But
Alex got.
weren't it?
Yeah, I mean, you got to respect that. Like, he just thought to himself, right, I keep losing to this guy, so on the biggest day and the biggest stage, I'm going to throw him a curveball. And I guess Alex just managed to hit it back, but he could have very well missed it, you know? So, yeah, props to Hayden, props to Alex. I mean, I think that was one of the
But then,
most exciting parts of the games, to be
even
honest. Like, seeing
Berger, at one point, it looked like he must have thought, fuck, I could win this as well. Because the French were like, he had Alex down to 5 seconds. And on the BBC, you could literally see him. And the commentators were like, oh, the French are willing him on to catch second. But then when Hayden was coming back to him, there must have been a bit in his head that thought, shit, I could win this, you know, like, and he must have been thinking that he was in with a chance, you know, if he could catch Alex and Hayden comes right back to him. So it was like, it could have gone like literally any way towards the end.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it was crazy. It was insane.
absolutely.
It was a crazy race.
But especially if you look at like the splits, they must have gone through the first 3Ks in like 2:53K pace or something. Like
I've got something here, what I saw, where they told you the first 5K and the second 5K for both of them. So Hayden did the first 5K in 14:25, and then the second 5K in 15:25, and Alex went 14:45, something like that, and like 15:02 or something. That was
Yeah. Well, there was the heat as well, man. It was really hot out there, like
boiling.
really hot. It was cooking, and I think like maybe Hayden got a bit disadvantaged by the fact that it was that hot because you know maybe if it was a bit colder, his core temp wouldn't have spiked that much with the higher pace. But that was the game. It was so hot out there. It was like 37 degrees, and because it just rained, all the humidity was rising up from the street. It was horrible.
Really?
So yeah, it was tough conditions. Yeah, it was tough conditions for sure.
So what about the mixed? Looking ahead to the mixed team relay, then what are you guessing?
I think we're in for like a really exciting race because I think it's different to Tokyo, where Tokyo you kind of had like 3 teams that were weighing above, 3 or 4 teams that were weighing above. Now you kind of still have those main players like France, Germany, US, GB, but you also have these kind of outsider teams that are just kind of knocking on the door. So like Netherlands, you know, their women yesterday went 7th, and Netherlands, the Dutch.
Flipping Maya Kingma, let's get it, baby.
Let's go, Maya.
Yeah. You've got Richard Murray, mate, on your team, haven't you?
Yeah, but apart from Max, you're saying you've got some dark horses like the Netherlands, but didn't we came in like 3rd in Tokyo in the relay?
4th.
But it smelled like 3rd.
I'm talking dark horse for the medals, mate, not for the top 5.
Yeah, they've recruited. They're like you, Max. They're recruiting people to change their nationalities. They've gone out and like talent searched Richard Murray. You know, there might be an opportunity for you, Max, next Olympics. You'll have to quickly change though to make sure you're still eligible. But like that could be an opening for you.
To be honest, I don't get the decision. So Richard Murray has raced years for South Africa. And he got married to Rachel Klamer, and well, she's a Dutchie. And now he's.
Is that how you pronounce her name in Dutch?
Sorry?
Is that how you pronounce her name in Dutch?
Yeah, Rachel Klamer. Yeah.
We'll just stick with Rach.
Yeah. What would you say then? What would you say?
Rachel.
Yeah, it's like a Rachel. But.
Sounds like you got a sore throat, mate.
That he's racing for the Dutch. I would. So 2 years ago, we had Jorik van Echtdom and I don't even know the guy who's
Marco van der Stel.
Marco van der Stel, yeah, they were racing for the Dutch team, and then Marco he like retired, and Jorik van Echtdom, some sort of didn't go find the motivation again to go for the Olympics as well. But originally he was still going for the Olympics. And then we had like an up-and-comer, Mitch Kolkman. He's in the team now. But originally, he was not in the team because they picked Richard Murray. And I was like, why would we pick someone who's like a middle-aged guy, so 35, who has raced always for his own nationality, and not our own talent, who's like a front-pack swimmer, has got like 20 years in front of him for the Olympics, and give him like the experience and like invest in the new generation, you know? That's what I would do. Well, in the end, he raced for the Olympics anyway, but... Yeah, I would rather invest in like young up and comers than people who are like almost gonna retire, you know. But that's my opinion, especially because they haven't been racing for the Netherlands at all.
Yeah. I mean, but there is an argument to say like, okay, yeah, he's not I don't know what you want to call him. Like he's an import, if you want to. That's what you want to call him. But he did go like top 10 at World Series a couple times last year. So Mitch is like, I honestly think Mitch is like one of the most impressive guys coming up right now. Like what he did in Holton and the way he raced that relay in Hamburg. He's like rapid on a relay.
But originally, Mitch wasn't in the team because of that, and I was like, we need to give this guy a chance because he was already when he was like under 18, so at the youth, whatever, swimming crazy, and his bike and running was like good. And now at the Olympics, he came in 28th, and he's the youngest one competing at the Olympics. You know, for triathlon.
I thought he had a solid race, 26th yesterday. I thought he was solid. Maybe suffered a bit in the heat, but like the guy's like 21. You know, like
I guess
that was pretty good.
The Dutch just like their mutton dressed as lamb, mate. That's why they've gone.
What does that mean?
What, mutton dressed as lamb? Yeah. There's a saying. What they say when you've got an older bird that's dressed as young, you know, like they're an old like a sheep. An old sheep is called like mutton, isn't it? You know, so when they're like when they
like the milk,
like an older woman, and you're like wearing like a short skirt and stuff like that. It's mutton dressed as lamb.
Right.
What is that, you guys?
Is that something like a cougar or something?
Kind of, yeah, like a cougar, yeah.
What about, so Mitch, for example, had a swim violation. What is a swim violation? What do you have?
Maybe behavior, maybe swim behavior.
I don't think get the better of him.
He let that dog out on someone, dude.
Yeah, Pitbull needs to wear a muzzle, mate. Like,
but how could what
get him in a straight jacket.
What could a swim violation be? Like,
it's only like behavior and cutting the course, but if you cut the course, you get DQ'd. So it would have been behavior, I think.
All right.
Maybe he lost his goggles, because I know a Hungarian guy lost his goggles, but I think a swim violation would be behavior. So maybe he got caught, letting that dog out a bit too much.
We've all got a pick who we think is going to the team that's going to win. I'm going to go with. I can't see France losing, to be honest.
Yeah, you got to pick. Like, man, they went what 1, 4, 3, 4.
I think France, definitely France.
And with the home crowd, man, that crowd. If you don't win in front of that,
I would say France, GB, and then the Netherlands.
Would you? I'm going to say US in third, because I think they're going to be a bit very disappointed with how they did in the individuals, and they're going to want to be getting a medal. Like, I think that team would be that they've underperformed compared to what they would have been going in there with expectation-wise.
Yeah, I mean, but then again, there's still like another outsider that went well in Hamburg is Switzerland, man.
Yeah,
like this guy, Switzerland are a very, very rapid team, and I think.
But also in the individual race, they were doing really well.
Yeah, and like Deron was like a crazy surprise silver. I mean, not really surprised if you look at her previous results, but I mean, she just did the 1 day, 1 race, showed up when it mattered type of thing. But then you've got Studer, who's like very good at the relay, Brifford, who holds his own against anyone, and then the young girl they've got, Kathy Ashar, is an absolute engine on the bike. This girl, so and a good runner. So I don't know what they're gonna do, but like they're another team that if they play their cards right, and you never know what happens with like water quality again or weather or whatever, they could be in with a shot. You know.
You know who I think would be very disappointed after the individual race with how it panned out would be Morgan Pearson. Like, he was swimming really, really well in one of the WTCS races.
It was Cagliari. He swam up next to me. I was like, oh, all right.
Yeah, he was like leading that at one point, and then so to not make that group on the swim, and then having it turned out to be a big group having a run race, he would have looked to have been in that group, and like that's a missed opportunity, I think, for him in the Olympics. Like, he'll be kicking himself about that.
Yeah, well, they rallied last time to come back to silver, didn't they, in Tokyo? Because they had similar kind of disappointing, apart from Zafira's, they had a similarly disappointing individual.
What would be, just going back to his race though, why do you think he ended up having such a bad swim? Because he's obviously been swimming well. He's been like nailing it in races. And I know from Matt Hansen was telling me that like he's been doing a bit of swim with him in Boulder, and he'd been doing some double day swims, like absolutely nailing it. Like, he was swimming really, really well, and obviously did a really good swim in Cagliari, like swimming next to you in the race. So why do you think he was like so off in what was like a strong swimmer's course? Like, he should have had a good swim with how he'd been going in paper. What cost him, do you reckon? Just battered at the boys?
I honestly, I don't know. That guy's like a bit of an enigma, because he's the type of guy that like either he wins or he's last. You know, like you never really know what he's going to cook up on the day, and you know, in the water, especially in that current, maybe he got the current wrong, maybe he got battered. Like anything can happen, you know, in the water. So I just think he just had a shit swim, basically. Like I don't know if there was anything untoward that happened, but yeah, it's strange. He's an enigma, that guy, because he's a guy that yesterday could have won a medal, but then also did what he did, which was like like 30th.
Like,
well,
you know,
we'll see,
if you guys had to pick one event that you're looking forward to for the rest of the Olympics, what, like, not triathlon, like, but just like another one, what's the one that you're looking forward to? I know what mine is, but I'll let you guys go first.
Cycling.
Oh no, beach volleyball.
Beach volleyball.
no. I'm actually
Max?
Beach volleyball.
The men's.
Yeah, the men's bodies. Like, they've got some great bodies. They have. Like, Max is going to be
no, honestly, I'm looking forward to the 1500. Josh Kerr versus Ingebrigtsen.
That was the one that I was saying. I cannot wait for the men's 1500 meters. Like, I'm absolutely dying to look to watch that race.
When is that?
The heats start tomorrow.
No way.
Yeah. The first heat's tomorrow.
I'm also looking forward to the women's 800. Like, I want to see if Hodgkinson's just going to boss it, you know?
Yeah.
Well, in general, she's been all the athletics, right? 10K, 5K, it's all pretty exciting.
Oh, by the way, I thought I'll bring it up since swimming is part of our sport. There was a world record yesterday. It's supposed to be a slow pool, this Olympic pool as well.
Was there?
Yeah, there was a world record. Men's 100 meters freestyle. The guy won by over a second, and he barely made the semis. He was literally this penultimate. He is the world record holder. He was the current world record holder, but he made the semis by like 100th of a second. Like, he was like the second last. So if he had swam 2-100,
who won it? I didn't even see that.
Han Zhang or something like that, a Chinese guy. But what do you reckon he swam for 100 long course?
32 seconds.
46 low.
Yeah. 0.4 of a second off the world record. That's huge, isn't it? At that, you know,
it's
when
massive.
You
you know what I think that is? That's just a whole bunch of hard work.
That is hard work, mate. Like, not to mention, let's not bring up the 20 Chinese guys that failed tests before, but we got overturned because of contaminated meat. It was absolutely nothing to do with that. Like,
no. Stop it, mate. Stop bringing these conspiracy theories. It's like I saw a theory the other day. The average Chinese woman is 5'2", and the average swimmer is 5'10".
Wow.
But that's nothing to do with
it. Can you
imagine,
imagine, right, if they all had that meat and it was all contaminated with all this, like, steroids and stuff, what the flipping heck did the beef or chicken look like before it was, like, slaughtered? Like, that thing must have been flipping.
I think the chicken must have looked something like the size of a goat.
Yeah, chicken. Like, you go to China and you see the chickens there, and you're like, "Fuck, is that a chicken?" Like, it's like 6 foot tall. Like,
let's give it to the swim team.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, it is pretty annoying. You have one piece of meat and you do get tested positive. It's just such bad luck, isn't it?
Yeah, but like the fact that like all 20 of them, like
it's just bad luck, man.
Yeah, poor guys.
I mean, it's hard work in combination with eating, with the nutrition, right? Nutrition is an important part of it.
It didn't do their swimming any harm, did it? Getting this contaminated meat, did it? Breaking world records by half a second, and like I say, it is meant to be a really slow pool. This one.
It is a slow pool. It is a really slow pool because it's like an artificial pool. You know, they built it inside the stadium. So
why does it make it? Why is it slow then?
I think it's
because
walls.
It's like a combination of the depth and the way it's built. I don't know. I'm not a pool expert, but like I think the deeper the
deeper it is, quicker because they try and make them really deep because apparently that makes it faster. I guess it's because there's less disturbance of the water when you go through it, and the lane ropes. And the sides of the pool, but this one, like, they reckon isn't as quick. Like, I don't know how much slower, but they just reckon that's why there's not been any. I think that might be the only world record so far of the swimming in the Olympics. There's been quite a few.
Yeah, good on him.
Hey guys,
he's worked harder than else, so he deserves it.
I've got a cool fun fact that I came across because we haven't recorded a podcast in a while, and I saw this and I wanted to share the knowledge on the listeners. But maybe this is a common thing and people already know it. But do you know where the tour buses are from in like the Tour de France?
What do you mean the tour buses?
What do you mean from?
Like when they've been introduced, like the tour buses that the cyclists that get changed and everything, and like a tour bus.
Oh, where
Was it Lance when he was doing his transfusions?
It was way before that. So originally, a Dutch porn club sponsored. This is not a joke. This is real. A Dutch porn club sponsored a Tour de France team. So back in the days, all the riders were like just getting changed on the streets and in like small little cars and everything. So this porn club was sponsoring the team, and they thought like, how do we get exposure? And they had like this big JB bus, this double decker bus. And then on the back they would say it was called Club Diana. So they would have like the advertisement, and then the riders could get like changed in the big bus, and they would have like their own personal space to relax. And after that, the year after that, all the other tour teams thought like, wow, that is actually pretty handy. And then everyone got like a bus like that, and that's how the Tour de France bus, or the tour bus from the cyclist, has been
so
born.
when was this? In like the 80s, 90s? When did this?
This was probably. Let me quickly have a little look.
While you're looking at that, speaking of like tour buses, one person that could have done with a bus to get changed in was your mate Thomas Dekker. Like I was talking to you about this yesterday, but because I saw a news article. Tell the fans of the podcast what happened to friend of the show Tom Dekker, who's been on. Like he got himself in a bit of trouble, didn't he, at a gravel race?
Yeah, that was already at when was it? What was it called again? Kansas,
or whatever used to be Dirty Can Unbound.
Unbound. So at Unbound, they did like a course recce. So this is in Texas, where they're pretty conservative. Kansas, sorry, where they're pretty conservative. So they did like a long ride and a course recce, and then they got like they were like all dirty from the gravel. So meanwhile, they went back to the parking lot to their car, and they got like changed and washed each other with water, as in like I would spray water on you, so you, like a water bottle, so you can like wash yourself real quick and get the dust off. And then a redneck thought like, what the hell's going on? Two gays on the parking lot washing with each other. So he called like the police. Police came up with 5 flipping cars, mate, and they 5 flipping cars. Oh, they went. So they were sitting in a restaurant. Police went there with like 5 cars. They arrested them, put them into jail. And,
he must have been like, why am I getting arrested? He must have had absolutely no idea what he'd done wrong or anything.
Exactly.
Like,
and then a guy, so the guy who organizes Unbound bailed them out for like €1,000 each. But they were lucky that there were no kids in the parking lot, because otherwise they would have been charged for pedophilia and could have been in jail for like 2-3 years.
That is crazy how like unlucky that is. Like,
nuts, isn't it? But yeah, the tour bus story has been somewhere up and around 1980.
Don't do your naked saunas, mate, in Kansas. That's a warning for you, because I can tell you, mate, you ain't going to be getting out of there in one piece, mate. With what if Tom got in that much trouble just in the street, I know that in Kansas, your naked saunas that you Europeans like is not going to go down very well. You're going to have to be doing it the UK style, mate, with like your swim shorts in there.
I wouldn't go to a sauna if it's swim style. It's Adam and Eve, mate. Let's get it. All right. Hey, quickly, Instagram post of the week. Now, this is something I saw already 2 weeks back, but it was Cameron Brown. So the old dog has been through a lot in his life. He's won a shitload of races, but he was doing a long ride, and he had a snack during his long ride. What do you reckon, guys, what it was?
Banana bread.
So halfway through beef jerky. Now halfway through his ride, he stopped like at a gas station to get like a sushi box. So he's doing a long ride and he was eating sushi. And I was thinking like, oh God, that is dodgy.
What's dodgy about it though? Because it's like rice and stuff. Like you'd have rice bars and stuff, wouldn't you? Like
but from the petrol station, mate. Like that's great.
And fish.
Because it could be terrible standard. So you're thinking,
yeah. But maybe he's just he's listening to our podcast. He's thinking, fuck, Seth is training his E. coli threshold. I'm gonna train my gut strength and give myself salmonella mid-ride.
All right.
and see
What would
if
you
I
rather
can
go
get
for
home.
then? Petrol station sushi or a McDonald's? Because I've seen Sam Long and that stop for like a Big Mac meal. I'd rather go for petrol station sushi than a Big Mac meal.
Oh,
Really?
no,
I'll go.
Yeah, well,
Big
you'd rather
Mac.
have a Big Mac in the middle. We're talking middle of a ride, like so you're in a training session.
Yeah, Big Mac.
Would you? What with chips and everything?
Mate, petrol station sushi. You're going to end up on all fours in the next half an hour, chucking that
Yeah.
disgusting
But what?
Barbie
But it's
back
New
up.
Zealand though, isn't it? So it's like probably pretty fresh, isn't it? You know, it's a little island. Like
I'm yeah, it's all pretty fresh. I don't know. Oh, God.
New Zealand's bigger than the UK,
mind
mate.
you, I have got history of getting food poisoning from fish. When I went out to race Regensburg, and you know that challenge series, what they do with loads of prize money. Like I had really good points from second at Rough, so I was like, right, I'm gonna pursue this series because I think I've got really good chance. And there was like an Ironman like 2 or 3 weeks later, which was in Regensburg. So I went out there. It might have been 2 weeks later, and I made the last minute decision, I think, on the Wednesday that I was going to go. So I flew out there, got there, ended up going out for dinner, and ended up getting a seafood platter in the middle of Germany for a starter.
Oh wait, you're too far away from the sea, man.
Yeah, you're literally like, as far away from the sea as you can be in Europe. Like, so I got a seafood platter, and then literally spent the next 2 days in the hospital room, and I was so absolutely nailed. They had to get like the doctor to come in and see me and stuff like that. Remember standing up in the middle of the night. I was like dizzy. I was falling over. Anyway, I felt a bit better. Bearing in mind, I must have had this on Wednesday night. So Thursday I was ill. Friday I was ill. Saturday I was like, I'm just going to see if I can actually ride my bike. So I went out and managed to ride my bike. The power was like not great and didn't feel great. And I'm like, I've got 24 hours or less than 24 hours. Hopefully I'll just feel good enough to get through so I can get some points and like do all right. Anyway, went down to the race start and you had to like get a lift there. It was one of them where it was a point to point. So the bike transition wasn't even in the same town. So it wasn't like you could do the swim and then just walk to your hotel if you felt shit. It was like 25k away. So once you picked the bike up, you were like, wait, basically once you start the swim, you were fucking committed. There was no way you could get back. So I started to swim. And you know that like meme where it's like, it was at this point, he knew he fucked up. It was like, as soon as I was running into the water, I was like, oh, I feel so fucking empty. I've got nothing in the tank. Like literally just running in. I remember getting out. I must have done about 57 minutes or something, maybe even worse. I don't know. I just had nothing in me in the swim. And I was on the bike and I'm riding along and I'm like barely able to put out like 250, 260 watts. But I was like, to be honest, I just wanted to get out into the fresh air because I'd been literally in the hotel room. I basically made it to Germany, went out Wednesday night. Then all of Thursday and Friday, I was literally in the room, didn't even go out. They had to bring like food into the room for me. Doctor had to come in and see me and everything. Oh man, it was grim. Ended up just doing the ride, and then I got into transition, put my shoes on, just walked to the hotel. Like, just I remember walking out the transition. They're all like cheering you on. And I'm just like walking out. Like, it was like I need my walking shoes to get back. I don't want to walk back in cleats. Like, oh, it's miserable.
What? Yeah, I would rather eat McDonald's. I have done that for a long ride. As well. Like,
I've done that as well.
Have you? You've actually done that on a ride?
Yeah, just some quick nuggies. Nothing like
getting the protein in, mate.
Maybe I'm missing out on a trick here. This is like the new nutrition. It's probably cheaper than a Morton as well, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. It's the equivalent of 2 Morton gels, and you get nuggies with chips.
Coke.
I think.
Should we just give Seth a quick shout out for giving out our theory to BBC Sport?
So BBC Sport took our quote today because I've seen this quote going around on a few articles as well. So someone got it from our podcast and then just decided to like post it.
What quote?
Well, no, it's because in training, you know, like all the girls have been banging on all year. Oh, the water's disgusting, da 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 da. And Seth and I have just been saying, well, you know, let's just not wash our hands after we go to the toilet, and you'll increase your E. coli threshold. You know, it's like anything. If you expose yourself to it more, you'll be less vulnerable.
What?
And I think he had a journalist wait for him at the exit of like the briefing, you know. And I think he just said it like off the cuff, like as a bit of a joke, and they took it seriously. And they published it in like USA Today, the New York Times, and then BBC Sport picked it up, and everyone was like, "This is disgusting."
What?
And he had to post a story up of him washing his hands because he'd obviously been getting so many messages. He must have thought, I need to show people that I do actually wash my hands. Like,
one of the comments was like, "Don't shake this guy's hand on the podium."
Yeah.
Where did we? In what context did we talk about the E. coli threshold again? Like, I can't even remember, but we did speak about
when you and Seth were like together, weren't you, somewhere? And
yeah, we're in Abu Dhabi.
Oh, right.
And I don't know, it just came up, and we just said, and you said something like maybe the way to increase your E. coli threshold is to give yourself slow exposures to E. coli.
I don't even. Yeah, it was so.
But to be fair, is that much of a stupid theory? Because you're not telling me, like, when you see those videos of India when they're jumping in the Ganges, and it's like absolutely filthy, like that for sure their guts would be like stronger. Or when you go to Bali and they tell you not to drink the water and stuff, and the locals are just chugging it like there's no tomorrow. Like they must be E. coli up to the T.
He could have like topped the story by saying, "Well, I haven't been watching my hands for a year and went on a training camp to India for 2 months, so I'm good and insane, mate."
This sounds like spring water to me.
Yeah, he's drinking it. He's down there with his like empty bottle of Evian, filling it up. Like,
all right, boys, I gotta go fix this bike, but it's been a good podcast.
Yeah, I gotta go swim, bike, and run as well, because Jody ain't waiting for me at the band camp
in Caravan Club.
I think you'll be waiting for me, mate. Like,
I want to see videos of this camp.
And Google the story about Club Diana Tour de France. I find it a funny story.
Yeah.
All right, let's see you later. Dogs. See you next week.
See you later. Bye.
See you next week.